Children, file 24177.
All right, we're on record for what's been scheduled as the initial disposition as it relates to Dustin King. We've had a sidebar and lean on the patience of our participants today to discuss CTAC recommendation that came in this morning and how to proceed as it relates to that. And I think we have a plan around that as well, but I'll let the attorneys address that after appearances.
Good morning, Your Honor. Nicole Underwood, lawyer regarding ad litem for the minor children.
Ms. Sasha Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Beach.
Ashley Beach. I'm the foster care supervisor assigned to the case, and I'm filling in for caseworker Francesca Madrid this morning.
Michael Brooks, I'm the attorney for Mr. King. Mr. King.
Dustin King.
Michael McFarland, not scheduled for today, but because my client, Ms. Miller, is present, I am here. Ms. Miller, please identify yourself.
I'm the mother.
Okay, that's Kirsten Miller. She is logged in. All right, comments on the sidebar beginning with Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. One concern we had was obviously the late production of the CTAC for the oldest child. There is a non-respondent mother in that case, but there are some concerns about that child. And so we wanted to bring that to the court's attention and let everyone else know, given the fact that that CTAC was just circulated today. And then secondly, there were some concerns about parenting time that have, based on a prior order as it relates to Ms. Miller, in discussing whether we were noticed for anything relating to her at all today or not, and then trying to figure out if we can schedule something on that matter. And I think that that's it from my recollection.
Comments, Mr. Brooks, on the sidebar?
No, I have no comments.
Mr. McFarland?
Your Honor, there's a question regarding a parenting time hearing if my client would waive 7-day notice, and I did have a discussion with her, and we are willing to waive that on the record.
Thank you. So that would put us scheduling a hearing on parenting time for Monday at 2:30 p.m. Comments, Ms. Underwood?
I have no additional comments.
Do you find that to be in the interest of the children?
I do.
Very well. We'll schedule a hearing on parenting time to consider the CTAC evaluation and some of the issues that have been arising on parenting time after the end of the week, so that the parents and their attorneys have time to look through the CTAC evaluation and prepare for that presentation.
Your Honor, just to be clear on that point, the CTAC evaluation we have for today is not related to Ms. Miller at all. That is solely for Mr. King and then his oldest child.
Okay. Does it affect the conversation around his parenting time?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks, did you get a copy of the CTAC evaluation?
No,
Okay.
I'm told by my secretary that it appeared on her computer screen at 9 o'clock this morning. By then I was on my way here.
Talking 95-page report.
Do you think an hour would give us enough time to go through parenting time for both sets of parents, Ms. Thomas, or should we set up 2 separate days for those conversations? Because the CTAC evaluation obviously is extraordinarily relevant. I haven't had a chance to read it either, honestly.
Your Honor, I believe that an hour is sufficient. We do not. And part of the issue with the parenting time with Ms. Miller is that we don't have any assessments back for her yet. I know that the family is in the process of completing those. And given the history of how parenting time has gone and how the children have struggled to adjust back in their foster homes, it's more the concern. I believe the court intended for its order to, I guess, circumvent having to have another parenting time hearing until the next review. Unfortunately, the way that it's being interpreted by the powers that be is not sufficient at this time.
Okay. So Mr. Brooks, would you be joining us then on Monday for a conversation about your client's parenting time in light of the CTAC recommendation as well?
Yes.
All right. Your
Can I have
client,
the date and time again, please?
that's Monday at 2:30.
The date?
The 10th. Thank you, Ms. Monday, February 10th at 2:30.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Monday, February 10th at 2:30. For the next regular review, while you're writing dates down, I'm looking at April 15th at 2:30 as well. Tuesday, April 15th at 2:30.
Right. That's a review.
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe there's a hearing or review hearing set already for Ms. Miller in March.
That's
Do you, okay.
10th, I think, if I recall.
So that's a question too that I wanted to put to the attorneys. Do you want to keep them separate or do you want to have them together?
I have no position on that.
No position, Your Honor.
I don't have a position either, Your Honor. I think that, there's no longer a PPO in place, so I don't think we have anything really prohibiting them from contact other than our orders, and if the court is fine with joining them for docket control, I think it's an efficient way to use our resources.
Okay, I'll think about it while I listen to the testimony for today. There's a lot going on in this case, and my inclination would be to keep them separate actually, but I'll think about it. Okay, Ms. Underwood, I'm ready for your report whenever you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor, I did report on the younger minor children during the bench trial. I haven't met with them since it was just recently. However, I have been in contact with the family, the foster placement. The children are doing very well overall. The younger 3 children are doing very well overall. They are acclimating to living in a more traditional home. They are learning how to eat with utensils and working on potty training and just having a schedule that helps with consistency and stability. They seem to be very bonded with the placement and thriving. There were the oldest of the younger 3 that's living in that placement is doing well, or he's struggling in school, but the placement's working with the school to figure out what additional services and supports he may need there. Early on has been scheduled. And so again, everything that needs to be happening with the younger kids in order to get them the support that they need is in place. The children are in the least restrictive and the safest and most appropriate placement, continuing to be with a relative placement. The oldest child, I did meet with him. We FaceTimed today and we've been in regular contact as he has a phone. So he knows he's free to contact me if he ever needs anything, but he seems to be doing okay. There are concerns that he's still not enrolled in school. That's a major concern for me. I think that it's important that the non-respondent mom get him enrolled immediately. But he seems to be doing okay over there still. There was a struggling period, adjustment period, acclimating back to, again, a more traditional household. And there are some significant needs that I think are going to need to be addressed with him, but for now, I believe his placement is appropriate. However, there needs to be some more contact and cooperation with his mom in order to ensure that all of his needs are being met.
Witness testimony today, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll ask Ms. Beach to be sworn in.
Zoom today.
Speech, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I'm sorry, that sounded like no.
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Beach. The court has a report in front of it that includes an initial court report for Mr. King, the case service plan for Mr. King, and then some IGWA documentation. Are there any other documents that you're aware of that have been circulated since you've submitted this court report?
Yes, Francesca and I just received the trauma assessment for the oldest child, Junior, yesterday afternoon. So we circulated that this morning.
And are you aware of the ICWA documents that you have attached to this court report are different than the ones that have been provided to the court prior in a previous time?
Yes, the ones that were submitted with the last set of documents were historical ICWA documents and responses. We resent the ones that were submitted this time, so we could have current ICWA documentation and responses.
Okay. Are there any updates or modifications that need to be made to your the documents that you've provided?
Not to my knowledge.
And at this time, as relates to Mr. King, what is the permanency goal for his children?
Reunification.
And what are the current barriers to reunification?
Our primary concern as it relates to Mr. King is emotional instability, inappropriate housing, and relationship stability.
Okay. And has he done any voluntary services to start addressing those barriers to reunification?
Yes, he participated in a psychological evaluation on January 24th. We have not received the results yet, but I did meet with that psychologist briefly following his evaluation that day. It was at our office, and he did say he was going to recommend a psychiatric evaluation. And then Mr. King has reported that he is in counseling, although he then has reported that he's not when he participated in the bonding assessment for his oldest child. So we are going to work on getting a release of information to see if he is engaged in therapy. And then he did participate in a bonding assessment with the two older children of the four.
And are there any other referrals that the agency has made that you have not addressed in your court report or on the record today?
Not yet. We are waiting to get the results of the trauma assessment, psychological evaluations back before we make any further referrals.
And as it relates, I know that we'll be back for parenting time, but as it relates to parenting time, is there any recommendation that you would like the court to consider for today?
So parenting time for Mr. King has been suspended since December 20th, based on concerns regarding his parenting or his behavior during parenting time visits, and then the children's behavior following parenting time visits. We are really hoping to gain some insight on how to structure parenting time from the children's trauma assessments in order to best support the children and meet their needs during visits, because visits that have happened have been observed to be pretty chaotic, and the children, specifically the oldest of the three younger ones, struggle behaviorally during visits. So we just want to make sure that we are structuring parenting time in a way that is safe and supportive to the children. So we would ask that it continue to be suspended until we get results of evaluations back, so we can implement recommendations that are made about parenting time.
Okay. And the case service plan, as it is proposed, do you believe that that is sufficient to address the barriers to reunification and the risks of harm posed to the children?
I do. And if we need to edit or add once we receive the psychological evaluation, we can always meet with Mr. King to do so.
And did you have the opportunity to meet with Mr. King to develop this case service plan?
We have, Francesca and I Ms. Madrid and I met with Mr. King via Zoom for a family team meeting. I have the date in front of me, but we discussed all of the services that were going to be recommended for him. So yes,
Okay. And did he have any feedback if he needed any additional services?
he did not.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. King, I'm gonna ask you to be cognizant of your disruptive behavior, please. For the first time. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions for Ms. Beach. I know that there's outstanding ICWA documentation that's been provided to the court. So I would ask the court to accept the court report with the current ICWA documentation and in addition to the historical ICWA documentation. With that being said, Your Honor, I also believe this is a situation where like a chart would be beneficial and would anticipate providing that to the court at our next review hearing.
Thank you. I'll look forward to the chart. We'll just say for the record, the only ICWA document I have for today is a single page that appears to have a copy of 3 green cards indicating that 3 different tribes have received an inquiry. So, and I don't remember off the top of my head if we received the current inquiries. And I know Ms. Beach testified that the last documents for historic inquiries. So that may be another piece that you might want to look at.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, objections to the entry of the exhibits.
No,
No objection.
Mr. McFarland?
haven't seen the one report, but assuming it says what I think it says, the only thing I'd ask is we get to cross-examine on it at a later hearing.
Yes, I was going to say that. I'll say that for the record as well. The CTAC will be subject to objection and cross-examination for purposes of the parenting time hearing scheduled for next Monday, or this Monday, I should say. So yeah, it'll be open for that. Yes, Mr. Brooks. Any objections, Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor.
Very well.
I'm okay with that. I know I'm not scheduled for a day, but as long as we are able to raise that on Monday, no objections.
Yes. Granted. Exhibits are received. Questions for this witness, Mr. McFarland?
No, because it's not a review for my client. We're going to cover that on Monday.
Very well. Mr. Brooks, any questions? For Ms. Ashley Beach?
No,
Ms. Underwood?
I have no additional questions.
All right, Ms. Beach, will you be able to join us on Monday at 2:30 to go over the parenting time concerns that were raised in the sidebar as well as in the CTAC evaluation?
Yes, I will.
Okay, we appreciate that. Any other witnesses today, Ms. Underwood or Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brooks?
you wanting to testify? My client wants to testify.
Coming up to our witness stand.
Get puffy again. Cause it upset me the last time.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
So
I,
let me finish, please. I'll start again. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
yes, I do.
Watch step.
All right, Mr. Brooks, whenever you're ready.
What is it that you got on your mind, sir?
Just feel like we need to discuss things that actually matter.
Do you have a list?
Do not.
Can you tell us what they are?
I'd like to get the township to hurry up and get this trailer done.
That's nothing to do with this court.
Okay. I'd like to have more time with my kids than I've had. Don't know who I gotta appeal this whole matter to, but I'd like it on record that I do want to appeal it if it doesn't go the way it's supposed to. Because there's a lot of issues against me in the court. I'd like to move forward with everything, but at the end of the day, I'd like to see my kids more than I'm getting to. I've asked that it not be put on YouTube numerous times.
Anything else?
I feel like my rights aren't right at the moment because of all the issues in the court. I feel that I am the father to these children, but I'm not getting the proper Jesus.
Recognition, maybe?
Proper recognition to move forward with this case. Like I talked to Brian Frey yesterday. He told me to just put it on the matter if nobody was talking to me about it, just so it's legal documentation that if it doesn't go my way, that I'm appealing it or have an instance to appeal the matter. Because I've not been able to talk like I wanted.
Anything else?
I am understanding that there's a Cherokee, Chippewa, and Seneca Indian possibly in us and my children bloodline. I don't know if you guys have put all three of those in or not. I do know I have started my parenting classes, which I have tonight. I think there's 4 set up for me. I have gained into masterpiece counseling, but with everything going on, I have not continued there yet because I have to fill the paperwork out. I'm working on getting a vehicle running so I can do these matters or take these matters back into my own hands. I just feel like every time I've tried to talk, I've been shut down on the matter.
You feel like you're being shut down today?
No. I feel like there's conflict of interest because I know Stanley Sala and his daughter in the long run, because my brother and me have worked for them.
Or anything else?
Not at this moment.
I have nothing further.
Anyone else have questions for this witness?
None.
No, Your Honor.
No questions.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat.
No further witnesses.
Anyone you'd like us to hear from, Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, comments in closing, beginning with Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the conditions that cause children to come into care are still present. There are the services in place to start addressing that. And I know that we'll be back in a couple of days for the parenting time matter. So you're asking the court to adopt the case service plan and enter that into its order today. Thank you.
Comments, Mr. McFarland?
No, I'll wait till the Monday.
Mr. Brooks?
My focus is different entirely than everybody else's, I think maybe even including my own client. The issue here is my client has no housing for these kids. And unless and until that issue is resolved, all this other stuff is just details. And that is the reference my client was making to the township, giving him problems to get the mobile home that he's purchased erected on land that his family owns. There's nothing you can do about it, but that to me is the biggest issue. Got to get past that before I get past anything else.
Thank you. Any comments, Ms. Underwood?
Your Honor, I believe that housing is just the tip of the iceberg as far as issues go in this case. While it is one, there are several things that need to be addressed and that can be worked on in the interim. I believe that the 3 youngest children's needs are certainly being met in the placement that they're in, and I would ask the court to continue that placement at this time. As I stated before, I do have concerns with where the oldest child is at. However, that is his legal parent who has custody of him, and she's not a respondent at this time. So I would just ask that the court potentially require some additional contact between the department and the non-respondent mom to ensure the safety of the oldest child and address his needs, and also order that he be enrolled in school so that he can continue on the medication that he desperately needs and deserves. Again, at this time, his current placement is also appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a question I was going to ask you, Ms. Beach, because typically if there's a maltreatment and care investigation, they'll pass it off to an ongoing worker. Have you heard anything from CPS about the concerns that were raised today about the oldest child?
So the maltreatment in care investigation was just in regard to Miss Miller and the 3 youngest children. So the oldest child was not involved in that investigation. There was an ongoing CPS case for the oldest child's parent, but that was closed within a month of us receiving the case. But we do have concerns about that placement and her ability to meet his needs, especially since he's not enrolled in school yet. And Miss Madrid has contacted the school. They have a packet ready for the parent, and she just hasn't gone and gotten it and completed it. And once everyone is able to review the trauma assessment, you'll see that Junior, some of the things he says throughout the assessment are also concerning to us as well about his mother.
Is it the regular practice of a caseworker in your position to refer that for further investigation through the department proper, or how does that work?
Yes, ma'am. And we plan to do so.
Thank you. Any questions based on my questions, counselors?
No.
No.
All right, thank you, Ms. Beach. Court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's hearing. I reviewed the case services plan. Mr. King's had a chance to look that over as his attorney. It does appear to target the areas that he needs to work on in order to provide a safe, stable, and healthy environment for himself and his children. Many of those were reviewed today: housing, employment, attention to the risky behavior patterns that brought the children into care, supporting himself and their care around that are all significant barriers at this time. Need to be addressed before the court can return the children to his care. They are in the safest and least restrictive circumstances, including the youngest three placed with a relative, and then the oldest child placed with a non-respondent parent, understanding that there are some moving pieces there that need to be addressed. I will include the directives to enroll the oldest child into school, into services as recommended by the CTAC evaluation, and to cooperate with sibling visitation. And we'll leave it to the department and the attorneys to decide what other measures may need to happen on that piece. As it relates to parenting time, prior orders are going to remain in full force and effect pending the hearing on Monday after everyone's had a chance to review the CTAC evaluation. I noticed from the court report that it looks like there's another bonding assessment scheduled between Mr. King and the youngest three children for the 6th. So I would just request that the department consider asking the evaluator to be present on Monday in the event that we won't have response back about that in that time frame, and or potentially to answer any additional questions that they may raise. So we'll leave that to them to handle, and as well as the attorneys to handle any other witnesses they may want to have available for that, although I will say we only have an hour. If we need to, we can look for some additional time after that point on Monday. But in the meantime, the order of disposition will be entered. It will reflect that the department has satisfied their obligations, as have the attorneys and our guardian ad litem. The case services plan will be part of the court's order. And I will continue to have the hearings separately, at least for the first regular review, and set Mr. King's review for that previously referenced date of April 15th at 2:30 p.m.
Thank you. The February 10th hearing is a separate hearing for someone else, right?
The February 10th hearing is on parenting time for your client.
Oh, then I do need to be here.
Yes, please.
Very well.
And then the next one is the April 15th at 2:30.
Very well. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. That's all for today. I'll have the order in a few minutes.